course, we're no lack of long names within the Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs, certainly, but we want to just say it's a delight to be able to be here with you today to talk about a great announcement that's going to affect so many. But first, let me say hi to a few guests that we have here today. We have County Judge Donald Carroll here today with us. We also have Mayor Jenny Sewell here with us as well. Mayor David Jackson as well. Representative Gooch is here as well. Senator Embry, of course, is here as well. And special guest Will Cox is here as well. So we want to say thank you. I would like for the governor, if we could have all of our residents who are veterans who are here joining us today, if you could wave your hand, would be great so we can see who the heroes are. Governor, the last time that we had the whole crew from Central Office down here, I think we did a little karaoke and we did a little dancing for the veterans. So we had a good time, didn't we? And we ate a lot of ice cream. I probably shouldn't say that. Today is a very special day. Taking care of our veterans, we all know that President Abraham Lincoln said that our mission is to care for him who shall bore in the battle, his widow, and his dependents. And of course, that also means our women veterans too. We have some wonderful Miss Americas in their own right in our facilities. And we take that to heart because our job and our responsibility is an American privilege, and that is to take care of the most precious population we have in the Commonwealth, and those are our veterans. But it's also our job from the Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs to take care of our employees, because you all are vital in the role of taking care of our veterans. So we are very proud today to have such an important announcement. With over 750 employees statewide in the Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs, we have over 150 employees that this new announcement will affect positively. So it is with great pleasure that I introduce the man that's going to be making all of that possible today. In his 7 years in office, Governor Beshear has seen our state through the worst recession of our lifetimes, with a focus on political integrity, education, healthcare, and economic development. He has taken Kentucky out of the economic doldrums and poised the Commonwealth for a bright future. He has cut $1.6 billion in state government spending and announced more than $10 billion in new economic development investment. He has overseen increased high school graduation rates, expanded health care coverage for more than 500,000 Kentuckians, and has been a strong advocate for veterans, members of the military, and their families. I'm honored to introduce to you your governor, Governor Steve Beshear.
Thank you all very much. First of all, let me just say it's great to be back home. You know, Hopkins County is home. I grew up, of course, I grew up in the county seat of Dawson Springs, you know, and we always said Madisonville was a suburb, but I don't think people in Madisonville like that, JR. Oh, Hopkins County is a great place to live and to grow up, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and we still got a lot of friends here. Of course, J.R. Stevens over here raised these two kids right here. I call them kids. They're one of them's as old as I am, the other one's not quite. But they're all close friends of ours, and it's always a pleasure to get back home and get your feet on the ground here in Western Kentucky. I appreciate you also coming out and being a part of this announcement, because this is very important for the people here and the people all over this state that work for state government. You know, in America, we live according to what I call an unspoken promise, that if you work hard and you play by the rules, you'll get ahead. What that means is that not only will you be able to support your family by putting food on the table and a roof over your head and sending your kids to school and adequate health care, but also that little by little, things will get even better. You'll enjoy even a better quality of life for your children and your family. And that unspoken promise is an inspiring one for us here in America. But unfortunately, for a lot of people, it also is a broken promise, because their reality does not match up with that promise. Because instead of getting ahead, they slowly keep falling farther behind. For them, that unspoken promise remains unfulfilled because too many jobs at the lower end of the economic ladder in the United States of America simply do not pay enough to be able to cover the basic essentials like food, clothing, health care, much less be a better lifestyle, and much less any luxuries at all. The current minimum wage in this country of $7.25 an hour, no matter how you look at it, is simply not enough to support a family on anymore. So we need to change that reality. We need to restore that unspoken promise by raising the minimum wage in the United States of America. But as we all know, at least in Washington, D.C., the federal government seems paralyzed and gridlocked, and nothing seems to happen there. So we in Kentucky can't just sit on our chairs anymore. We've got to get up and do something about this. Earlier this year, when the 2015 session of the Kentucky General Assembly met, a proposal to raise the minimum wage was introduced. And it passed our House, but it didn't pass in the Senate. It came to a screeching halt there. It didn't even get a hearing. Now, this legislation is going to be back this next session, and I certainly hope that it passes. But I won't be governor at that time. This year is my last year, and so the outcome of that legislation will be beyond my control. But I'm still governor right now, and I can still do some things right now to move Kentucky closer to where we need to be. And that's exactly what we're announcing today. In a moment, I'm going to be ceremonially signing an executive order that I actually signed this last Monday. It makes changes that enables our state government, and our state government is Kentucky's biggest employer, to take the lead in making sure that our people are earning a living wage. The first change in this executive order has three parts. Number one, it will raise the pay of every state worker effective July 1 of this year to at least $10.10 an hour. Believe it or not, we have 510 state workers whose current pay falls below that $10.10 threshold. Number two, we will also give a slight bump in pay to a category of workers whose current salary is at or just above that new threshold. After all, they're more experienced, some of them are supervisors, and out of fairness, we want to maintain a differential in compensation to acknowledge that experience and those duties. Number three, for state workers who operate off of tip income, as do many of our employees in our state parks, we're going to raise their base hourly income from $2.19 an hour to $4.90 an hour, which matches the new federal rate. That affects 112 of the 510 workers. Now, all told, this executive order will affect 779 state workers at our current pay levels. The estimated annual cost is a little less than $1.58 million, of which less than $800,000 will have to come out of our general fund. And our state agencies will use funds in their existing budgets to cover that cost. Now, a second big change in this executive order applies to the private sector. We have companies who work for state government and have contracts with state government. Those private companies with state service contracts, they're going to be required to pay a minimum wage of $10.10 an hour to those of their employees who perform work on or in connection with those state contracts. In other words, those employees that work for the state in those contracts are going to get that raise of the minimum wage. We will apply this requirement to new contracts and to existing contracts as they come up for renewal. Now, who are these state workers? Of the 510 employees who currently make less than $10.10 an hour, More than one-third of them work for the Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs, caring for our veterans. Matter of fact, we got 55 of them that work right here at this Hanson facility. The next largest category, almost 20% of the total, work in behavioral health, again, taking care of people. Other significant totals include workers at our state parks and in natural resources. The irony here, and it to me is an appalling irony, is that the people we have tasked with the difficult job of caring for our vulnerable populations are paid so little that they too are vulnerable, at least when it comes to financial security. And that is simply unacceptable. Now, my message to the private sector is this: follow our lead. Follow our example. Get on board with what we're doing. It's not only the right thing to do, but in the long run, it's also economically the smart thing to do. Raising the minimum wage reduces turnover in many low-paying jobs. It decreases the cost of training and retraining. It increases productivity, and it reduces inefficiency. We took steps recently to enhance the compensation of correctional officers and other hazardous duty staff just for those very reasons. In addition, listen to this, raising the minimum wage helps pull our people off of public assistance. Let me give you an example. According to our Cabinet for Health and Family Services, a statewide increase in the minimum wage could move more than 13,000 Kentuckians off our Medicaid program because they could then afford their own health insurance. Folks, that would save this state, that would save our taxpayers $93 million. So if you want smaller government, get out here and raise this minimum wage so that we have less people on our assistance programs, and we'll have smaller government. We can actually save the taxpayers money by raising the minimum wage. Now, I know what some of the critics say. Many of them who are motivated by rigid ideological positions have these talking points that always are in favor of keeping wages far below what families need to survive. But when you carefully examine those talking points, there really aren't any facts to back them up. Now, the most common myth that you hear is that raising the minimum wage will kill jobs. Folks, that is simply not true. There have been dozens of studies on the minimum wage. And recently, a number of economists pulled together in one group 67 of these studies, in another group 27 of these studies. And they all concluded the same thing, that raising the minimum wage did not have and does not have a significant negative impact on employment. Again, those aren't just one study. Those are 64 in one and 27 in the other. Furthermore, the Labor Department statistics, they show that the 13 states around our country who raised their minimum wages beginning in 2014, they added jobs at a faster pace than those states that did not. Other myths out here. Raising the minimum wage benefits primarily teenagers, part-time workers. Again, not true. Numbers from the National Bureau of Economic Research tell us why. They show that 87.5% of the people who would benefit are over the age of 20. 34.5% of them are over the age of 40. And secondly, 53% of people who make the minimum wage work full-time. They're working full-time, supporting families. Over 85% of them work at least 20 hours a week. Look, over the last 7 years, we have made a tremendous turnaround in our economy here in Kentucky. Obviously, we all went through that horrible recession in 2008, 2009. And we suffered just like the rest of the country suffered. But man, what a long way we've come since then. Economists said last month that Kentucky had not only recovered all of its losses from that horrible recession, but we had actually had significant new gains. Last year, our economic activity was the highest it's ever been in this state. Our unemployment rate has dropped from 10.7% to 5%, and it's still dropping. And an independent measure of actual business investment in this state shows that we were the #1 state last year in business investment and job creation in the entire United States of America. Now, we need to accelerate that momentum, and we will. But we got to make sure that every one of our families share in that momentum and share in that progress. A statewide poll was taken last year, and it showed that by a 2-to-1 margin, Kentuckians favor raising the minimum wage for all of those families. They agree we owe our families a living wage. It is the smart thing to do economically. It is also, no matter what your religious beliefs may be, it's the moral thing to do as well.